What is a stablecoin? Donald Trump has actually passed the Genius Act, and this act establishes the first federal stablecoin regulation. Now you could actually turn that stablecoin into US dollars.
A lot of companies now are starting to accept crypto more in general, and stablecoins is definitely one of their most preferred ones because
And welcome back to yet another episode of the CryptoNoobz Podcast, where we talk about cryptocurrency and the world around it. I'm your host, Nelson Recardo.X, and I'm joined with my co-host,
Lamont Astwood, aka Crypto Lambo.
And today we are going to be talking about stablecoins. So Lamont, one of the first things I want everyone listening to understand is, what is a stablecoin? I do have a definition here that I would like the audience to use to understand what is a stablecoin. So a stablecoin is a type of cryptocurrency designed to maintain stable value by pegging itself typically to a reserve asset like a US dollar or a euro or commodities such as gold. So basically, a stablecoin is a cryptocurrency that is pegged one-to-one, usually to some sort of a reserve asset. Usually, in most cases, it's in dollar. Now, tell us some of the things that you know about stablecoins.
Yeah, so stablecoins generally, they're cryptocurrency that's usually pegged one-to-one with a type of fiat currency. Sorry about that. So it'll be the USD. So the most popular stablecoin will be USDT, but it's issued by Tether. So that's just basically a cryptocurrency that is used just to say, all right, this is the perfect one-to-one par with the actual US dollar. A lot of traders, they actually do come in handy. So they're actually great for when you see the market is in downfall, because that way you see a lot of traders actually start buying more stable coins. That way, it'll maintain the value of their currency or the value of their investments, as well as have their money readily available to invest. So if, let's just say, a cryptocurrency is trading at $100 and it goes down to $50, if you were able to get into a stable coin, and let's say you were able to save the value of your original $100 now to $80, you could re-enter that same crypto that you previously sold at basically a lower price now. You could enter it at $50 now. Stablecoins is definitely one of the marquee and one of the most important aspects of crypto.
One of the things I'd like to add on to that is I really like how a lot of people use stablecoins for exit liquidity, at least to be able to exit their trades, or even not just their trades, to actually turn whatever cryptocurrencies they have into regular fiat currency. So just as you said, when you've already made your profit, what you would then do is you then transfer your cryptocurrency into a stable coin so it maintains its value. And then with that stable coin being at that particular value, let's use in this scenario, the US dollar. Now you could actually turn that stable coin that is worth $1 US into US dollars and be able to withdraw that money. So that's one of the things that I really think is really cool and really neat about stablecoins. Now, one of the questions that I have for you is, how is a stablecoin different from cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin and Ethereum?
Well, stablecoins always maintain the value. So a stablecoin is not supposed to rise in price. It's not supposed to decrease in price. So when you talk about like Bitcoin and Ethereum, those cryptocurrencies, the value mainly shifts based on the trading volume or the trading activity. So if you get more buy orders, it's going to go up in price. If you get more sell orders, it's going to decrease in price. Stable coins are designed with such a mechanism that they always maintain their value. They don't ever go up or down in price. So that's one of the key differences between stable coins and regular cryptocurrencies, which you'll see.
Okay. So here's a follow-up to that, right? So as we know, stable coins are basically pegged one-to-one to cash, right? Just like the US dollar, just like the euro. So can it also be spent as cash, or can it actually be used to actually make purchases, buy things, sell things? Like, can stablecoins be used to do these things?
Yeah. You have some firms, as well as like a lot of companies now are starting to accept crypto more in general, and stablecoins is definitely one of their most preferred ones because it actually maintains the value of their asset they're selling. Like if I'm selling something, let's say for $1,000, and I say, all right, I'm accepting Bitcoin or Ethereum or any type of cryptocurrency, right? And let's just say for argument's sake, I say, okay, I want point something. I just throw out an argument. Let's say 0.1 Bitcoin for something. I know that's not the perfect rounding, right? But let's say I want 0.1 Bitcoin for this item. I can get that. But if the Bitcoin's value is low that day, when I receive the 0.1 Bitcoin, I'm receiving less money. Now, if I say, hey, I would accept 1,000 USDT for this, $1,000 dollars in stablecoin for this, that's always going to be $1,000. But I don't know if that makes sense. But the downside to that is if I accept the 0.1 Bitcoin and Bitcoin is trading up, that means it's almost like I get more value for the asset I'm actually selling. Yeah, stablecoins are definitely used a lot in transactions. I bought the phone I use, I bought that with stablecoin. I bought that with USDT. That's an iPhone. I bought that fully in crypto. So yeah, people are more starting to use stablecoins and cryptocurrencies generally for real world application and real world purchases. And that's one of the things where we want crypto to go. We want where crypto actually becomes a viable use, like have viable use cases. That isn't something you just want trading forever, You wanted to see introduced into the real world because now that's where the big money is going to start investing. And that's where, like I saw a quote this week where they said, where institutional money goes, innovation flows. So trust me, like that's a big thing. Using stable coins for purchases. That's one of the main drivers, I would say, of promoting the cryptocurrency industry to the average person.
And I do think that stablecoins have a very strong ability to allow more mass adoption for cryptocurrency users since it's already pegged to something that is already known. So some people might not understand the cryptocurrency part of it, but they do understand the dollar, they do understand the euro, they do understand gold. So stablecoins do give that understanding of worth just for the dollar. Here I just have some recent news that was going about. So Donald Trump has actually passed the Genius Act, and this act establishes the first federal stablecoin regulation. So just a little bit more about it. It requires stablecoins to be fully backed by liquid assets, being dollars or U.S. treasuries, with monthly reserve disclosures, and forbids issuers from paying interest directly. And then on top of that, this law could boost market legitimacy and scale. The current stablecoin market is currently around 260 billion, with the potential to reach 2 trillion by 2028. So it shows that especially the US is really bullish on stablecoins. And I mean, there's already regulations and laws around it being passed. Then on top of that, I had actually saw some news with Citibank. So mainstream financial institutions are entering the stablecoin space. Citigroup, underneath the CEO Jane Fraser, has recently confirmed plans to issue its own stablecoin to facilitate digital payments. Citi's think tank forecasts stablecoin supply could reach 1.6 trillion and at its base and get all the way up to 3.7 trillion by 2030. Similarly, Bank of America, JP Morgan, and others are exploring stablecoin issuance, signaling a broad move from banks to fintech and crypto. Just as you said, wherever institution goes, the money flows. Now you're seeing a lot of banks, and I think this is something that we had talked about in a previous podcast. Do you think banks are going to integrate crypto, despite the fact that initially crypto was supposed to be that kind of opposing factor to the banks? Like, what do you think about this recent move between cryptos and banks?
Yeah, definitely. The thing is, whenever you see like what's happening now, a lot of it was going to be contingent on like Donald Trump and what the U.S. government decided to do, especially like with the Genius Act, because like I say, when it comes to institutions, they love regulation. They love when their assets that they're dealing with are regulated. Because after the whole, FTX fiasco, a lot of people, they're very reserved when it comes to crypto assets. And what happens is a lot of banks, even though they might have not been gung-ho and jumping on the crypto train, what happened is a lot of their clients now are asking for it. They're asking to invest in digital assets. And it isn't just no more like the cowboy clients, now it's the actual wealthy high net high net worth clients who are asking for this. Now there are clients who are institutions. They're asking for this. So a lot of them are starting to work together, and a lot of them are starting to realize that, hey, if we could offer an asset that serves that particular demographic, and especially with this new regulation, so it protects our investors more. Because a lot of investment firms, they are very concerned about their reputation. It's a huge reputational risk for jumping into certain crypto projects. So if they could find a way to actually get into this in a more safer way, whereas they can still profit, trust me, you're going to see more. You're going to see much more banks enter this. That's only the beginning right now. You're going to see many more banks.
And not only just banks, like you even seen like tech giants and retail businesses jumping into the fray as well. So I was on a website today looking at different like watches, and I saw like where they accept crypto payments or what's not. So just for the audience's understanding, sometimes some businesses prefer not to accept just any and any cryptocurrency. They choose to accept very specific cryptocurrencies, mainly Bitcoin, and usually stable coins. The reason why is, as we talked about it, stable coins maintain their value because they're usually pegged to the dollar or gold or the euro or whatever it's pegged to. You know, unlike some currencies that usually fluctuate really high or really low, depending on the season or whatever the market is showing, people like their money to remain the same. So now what we're seeing is even like these retail and tech giants now, companies like Google, Uber, Apple, Shopify, Amazon, and Walmart are now exploring stablecoin payments. So it's going to be very soon. It's actually already happening, but it's going to be very soon where we'll be living in a way where you could just basically make payments to whatever service, especially if it's a subscription service, using stable coins instead of using your actual cash. And just for a refresher, Lamont, I want you to also clarify this for the audience, right? So what is the benefit of using stable coins for payments rather than just using your debit or credit card?
A lot of it has to do with like speed and access to funds. When you look at like crypto transactions, they are very fast. Right? They're known for being very speedy. When you look at using transactions like with your debit card, what has happened to me is, let's say like I go on a website and I'm trying to purchase something. The website headquarters where like the payment is actually like kind of being routed would be like in Cyprus or something, right? Or it might be in a country that kind of like raises a red flag to the bank. So you will have to call your bank and say, hey, I want to purchase this, blah, blah, blah. And they'll say like, okay, we're going to open up the portal for like 5 minutes. So you have 5 minutes to make a purchase. So you got to hurry up, do that, you know? Whereas when it comes to crypto, it's kind of like more, I don't want to say easier. I mean, it's getting easier. Yeah, more direct.
It's more direct.
More direct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's more direct. I kind of had a similar situation. So my story would have been like, I know what it was to be traveling to another country. And when I went to use my debit card in that other country, unfortunately it was locked. Now, mind you, I definitely understand the security aspect of the debit card. That's very important. And for some people, it works. But for other people, they want to be able to access their money when they want to access their money. And fortunately for all of us, we are now in a position where you could have both options available to you. You could have the option to have money on your debit card, and that money is safe and secure because the banks aren't trying to lose their money, right? But at the same time, sometimes the banks are going to restrict your money, whereby you also have your crypto, where you could actually make whatever direct payments to who you want, when you want, however you want. And that's where I have very much experienced when I was inside that other country. The stress of trying to call your bank and trying to get your card situation sorted out, and it can become a headache. All right. So it could become a headache, whereby on the other hand, with cryptocurrency, you could just make that direct payment as long as they have the address that you have to send the cryptocurrency to. You could just make that direct payment, and bada bing, your transaction is done.
Yeah, like there were times when I had to buy crypto, and like for example, I had to buy crypto and send the crypto to somebody. And the reality is the most, I don't want to say tedious, but the part of the transaction that took the longest was actually me buying the crypto itself. It wasn't even transferring the crypto. That was actually like me having to use my card or whatever to buy the crypto. That's what took the longest in the transaction. It wasn't even me buying it per se, you know?
And that's the thing. That's so interesting. I do have another question here. What are some of the stable coins? This isn't financial advice, but what stable coins do you think are more trustworthy around now? Like
all right,
the stable coins, yeah.
The only one I use really is USDT, but you have stable coins like I think it's what DAI. I think that's a very popular one.
That one is pegged to other cryptocurrencies.
Yeah.
DAI is pegged to other cryptocurrencies. Then USDC is also a good one.
Yeah, USDC, that's probably I think that's the second largest, if I'm not mistaken. Second largest stablecoin behind USDT. Then you have like different ones like I think PayPal has their own PayPal USD or something like that. Yeah, PYUSD. I have never used it, but I assume because it's PayPal, it might have some of a track record behind it. But a lot of other stable coins, I can be honest, I don't really bother with. I'm trying to go back to a Terra situation, the UST.
Terra Luna. So
that was a disaster.
This one is one where I really want to pick your brain, right? And get your opinion on this. Do you think governments or big banks should be the ones issuing stable coins?
That's I am not sure. I'm going to be honest with you, because ultimately it's almost like a antithesis. If you're going to do the stable coins, if you're going to widely circulate them, especially by like central banks and governments, that means you're kind of like foregoing the use of central bank digital currencies. Now, in the form of control, because the way how a central bank would print or the Fed will issue its own money, you would want them to issue their own digital money. I think that kind of makes sense. Like, because what you gotta understand with crypto is like supposed to be decentralized. So when you have something that's centralized, it's almost like it'll be kind of weird them working with certain companies to issue the stable coin itself. Because then you get into the risk of what if there's a rug pull on a whole country? Like that's something like
Didn't we already have that? Didn't we already have
Argentina?
That?
Yeah, with Argentina. Yeah, like that's something that is kind of like I would have to sit down and think about it more, because there are pros and cons to it, but that's something I think is a little early to say, all right, government should start issuing or they should start working together to create their own stablecoin. Now, the concept of a government itself running their own blockchain where they have stablecoins is another thing, but a government saying, okay, they contract in a stablecoin provider, independent company, that's where, to me, it gets kind of a little scary.
I think
they'll have to be involved at almost every level, because remember what I say, like if companies are reputational risk, government's definitely a reputational risk. Like that's you're dealing with a whole different level right there.
Okay. Now, I think that is an interesting question, right? Because it all goes back down to what's the use case of a government having a central bank digital currency, or should they just have a regular stable coin? I think stable coins make more sense for the businesses, but central bank digital currencies, not to say that I'm for or against, but I definitely could see where if you are a central bank, you do want some level of insight and control over that digital currency versus just a stable coin. Because with the stable coin, at least to my understanding, you do have control, but it's limited. Let me go and double check this. Yeah. So yes, my next question would be, so have you ever used a stable coin to send money or get paid?
I did it to send money before. I did it to send money many times. I did it to receive money as well. Yeah, that's to me is one of the easiest ways to, as far as like transacting funds. Because if I ask someone for $500, instead of them saying, all right, I'm gonna give you point something Bitcoin or point something Ethereum, all right, just give me 500 USDT and just send it to me. That made it much easier. Yeah, I definitely transacted in between individuals and in between users. I have used USDT and stablecoins more than probably any crypto.
That's real. Similar to you, I've definitely both received and spent USDT. I know what it is to pay people using USDT. That's also a really good use case that a lot of people use stablecoins for, where now when you have freelancers or people working for you or employees or whatever, you actually just use the stablecoins to immediately pay your employees. And that is where it's so like powerful, because we as employees know how long it could take to actually get paid sometimes for your work and what's not, because there might be certain things going on with the banks. You might have to the next person's bank, and it might take like 1 or 2 days to settle so that they could actually be sent, versus, hey, as soon as the person has completed the job, in that same minute, you could actually send them their payment, or you can actually receive the payment. And I think that's another great way that, stablecoins are being used. Now,
Sure.
so now here's another question. That really is thought provoking, right? If stablecoins become the norm, what does that mean for our financial freedom?
I think if stablecoins become the norm, that'll probably do more to like actually benefit our financial freedom, in a sense that our money would be less controlled by banks or like, government institutions. So we would be doing like more off the radar transactions. And when I say off the radar, I don't mean that to say, all right, everyone could just be shady and doing money laundering. I mean, just, it's like people just, they can have more control over their money. They ain't got to worry about, if the bank take my money, blah, blah, blah. Like that's something a big fear people love, I a day late with paying this, so the bank can just swipe all my money off my account. And trust me, I used to work in like debt collection and all that at a bank, and I see how like bad it gets when they are trying to get money from these individuals. So I think, me personally, if there was more ways to use crypto locally, I'd probably rather get my money in crypto, to be honest, or get it at least in USDT, than redistribute it from there. Like that's why I started buying stuff online with crypto, because it's like it wasn't a lot of ways I could use it in real life, when I had like a lot of USDT. So it just is like, all right, I might as well buy some off eBay or get some from Amazon with this, But yeah, I think you're gonna see people definitely exercise more freedom with their money, and being subject to less penalties and punishments from banks and financial institutions.
I also think, in addition to that, we're going to have a lot more global payments. That's another thing I think is going to be the norm. I think it's going to open up bridges. So currently, we all are inside of different countries, different currencies, and sometimes it's a headache to actually spend your money outside of your country. In fact, if we're being honest, some countries like the Bahamian dollar, we're inside of the Bahamas, right? We're Bahamian. Our currency technically has no value outside of the Bahamas, right? So what we usually need to do is, if we want to make a transaction, we usually have to put it into the bank. Then they would have it on the debit card or the credit card or whatever, and then it would make that transaction while taking a fee, and it would be then sent to XYZ company after it's already been transferred to whatever currency we're trying to purchase, right? And that's how that transaction essentially would work, But now with stable coins, and let's just say that it's regularized, now we're going to be having like different businesses say, hey, listen, we don't even got to worry about the bank. Just come and pay me directly. I accept cryptocurrency. So now different services, products, whatever is now going to be a lot more accessible, because you could just make direct payments to whatever vendor you're going to. On top of that too, I just see it as, if you travel, it saves you that time of having to go and change your currency to a whole other country's currency. Whereby now it's like, hey, this country already accepts USDT as a stable coin, or whatever stable coin that we choose, right? now I could just go and purchase and swipe or just send whoever money, whatever, because technically we're all using the same currencies. And that's what I think is part of the goal for this whole crypto space, to allow global access, that financial freedom, and that ability to spend money as you please. That's what I think.
Yeah.
That's where I think this is all going. That's where I think. So I'm definitely for stable coins. I'm liking what I'm seeing happening, more adoption, and much more people are joining into what it is that we are building, you know?
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. I think stable coins are going to become part of the new normal when it comes to like finance and in general, not just crypto, but I think it's going to definitely become part of the new normal when it comes to finance and doing transactions. Because, like you say, like when you go to different countries and all that, you don't have to be exchanging money, doing all of this and all that. And I think about like how a lot of people send money, like who work abroad, they send money back home. They'll have to go to like Western Unions, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And their money's getting eaten up by fees, conversion rates, all of that they have to take into consideration. Whereas when you have crypto, it's like if you could live in Jabim, I could just send you $100 in USDT and you could spend it however you wish in Jabim. Yeah, definitely. I think stablecoins are definitely going to be part of the new normal when it comes to the monetary system and the financial system going forward.
Real talk. But that would be us for the day. Once again, as always, Lamont, thank you so much for being on the show. And to our audience, thank you so much for listening, watching, and just tuning in. I expect to see much more videos coming from us, and we're going to have a lot of new things coming up pretty soon. So keep on the lookout, give us a subscription, and, just follow and like. Every follow, like, share definitely helps us to go a long way, and to even help us to give you more education, more news, and more insights about crypto. So you guys have a good one. Peace.
Good night.